Hello and welcome back to the Tanner Realty Group podcast. This is Austin Cassidy. I'm here with Mike Tanner. And the past several weeks, we've started to see a slight shift in the market, and that's what we're going to explain here today. We're going to look at it from a national level and then break it down into our local markets here in the Vancouver, Portland markets. So yesterday, May 24th, some statistics came out on the national housing market, and single-family homes sales fell by 16.6% in April. That is a large decrease, and it's the slowest rate of sales since April 2020 during the earliest days of our COVID-19 pandemic. And this kind of shows us our housing market is starting to cool. This means a lot of different things. However, it doesn't mean the market's crashing. What we see here is prices and interest rates have finally started to maybe bite some sellers, pricing their homes too high, and they're starting to need to do price reductions, and it's slowing down our markets as the intention of these interest rate hikes. In new home sales in March were revised from 763,000 to only 709,000. This shows that there is a cooling in our market. So that's kind of a national outlook. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about our local market here and how these statistics fit into what we're seeing in our markets?
Yeah, they actually fit in quite well. And one of the things that Austin and I both have been telling our clients is it's not a crash, because everybody wants to kind of sound the warning alarms. And the term we've been using for months now is a deceleration in the market. And you maybe have heard us reference this before if you've had individual conversations with us. It's kind of like if you're going 90 on the freeway and you've got your foot really heavy on the gas and you take that down even halfway, you go 45, you feel like you're moving at a snail's pace. Essentially, that's what's happening to the market. Now, I don't drive 90 miles an hour on the freeway. Perhaps that was a bad example. If my kids are listening to me, I do not do that at all. Between you and me, I top out at about 80. But anyway, just kidding, sort of. But those national numbers definitely do play into what we're talking about, because this deceleration will continue. Those interest rates, every time they tick up, even just a tiny bit, it impacts that affordability because our housing market has grown so much. In most places in the country, it's gone up almost 20% year over year for the last 2 years. Now, obviously, no market can sustain that kind of growth. To give you an example of that, in Clark County, Washington, here where we're recording this today, Southwest Washington State, 3-bedroom homes over the last 45 days, the average sale was $540,000. Now, that's huge compared to a couple of years ago. And in Washington County, Oregon, so Beaverton, Tigard, Hillsborough, the whole west side there, a 3-bedroom home, the average price there was $570,000. And so it used to be, hey, all the deals are in Clark County. That's what a lot of us transplanted Oregonians thought. Well, not so much anymore. We're only about $30,000 on average behind in Clark County for what's going on in Washington County now. But that deceleration definitely will continue. We're not seeing housing prices fall. What we are seeing are adjustments on those prices, as Austin kind of alluded to earlier. We're basically seeing home sellers having to reevaluate, going, okay, maybe I can't shoot for the moon anymore. I've got to dial that back to a much more realistic price range. Doesn't mean that the market's crashing. It just means that those price reductions are getting in more alignment with what the market is willing to bear. Am I making sense on that, Austin?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of us do know that the real estate market is cyclical. There's buyer's market, seller's market, there's balanced markets, and we've been in a strong seller's market for the past 2 years. We're starting to see that cool off. So maybe some of the leverage is starting to lie in the hands of the buyer could be a great time to get into a home and start negotiating with sellers that maybe are sitting on the market, had different expectations when they listed their home, and may want to just get out of their home quick. If you're a seller, it's also a time to really look at the facts and not look at 6-month averages anymore of home prices, days on market. We need to dial that down to the last 2 months, last month, and start looking at that, because it's going to show us what right now in the market is like, and you don't want to get caught behind the curve.
Absolutely. And I think we still, the 6 months are still important, because that gives us a good brief history on everything. But I fully agree with you. If we're not looking at the today numbers, the this month and last month, I think we're doing people a tremendously huge disservice, because the market is changing not in 6-month increments anymore. It's changing almost on a every other week basis. And you need a realtor that's actually going to keep up with that and give you good information, an accurate, up-to-date information, so you know how to make those good decisions.
Absolutely. And to put this into reference, in the past 5 months, 6 months, mortgage rates have risen 200 basis points since the end of 2021. And that puts pressure on home prices, on affordability, on affordable housing in general. We've seen rent go up. So just the general market is starting to feel the pressure. We pumped money into the economy to stimulate it and get everything going, and now they're doing everything they can to kind of slow it down a little bit, and we're starting to see the effects of that.
Which is exactly what the Fed said it was going to do at the beginning of the year. I don't know if they're going to follow through with all of the rate hikes that they basically have alluded to. However, the ones that they have done so far have definitely impacted the market very, very quickly.
So Mike, what can a seller do now, hearing this information that, well, my house isn't necessarily going down in value, but it is getting more, not necessarily difficult to sell, but there is a little more gamemanship to it. What can they do to get more information of how to list their home, or what their home may be worth now with everything going on?
So there's a couple of things. Number one, find a realtor who actually understands what's going on in the economy, who actually understands the numbers, because if the pricing was important before, it is even more paramount now. Pricing has always been huge and the top thing in selling a house. Now, however, if that pricing number is wrong, or if it's off even by 10%, you're going to cost yourself some time on market that you don't want to cost yourself that time on market, because there's going to come up another house down the street and they're going to swoop in and get your sale. Second thing you can do is, gone are the days of just throwing a house up to seeing what you can get. You've got to actually put some work into it. We put out something called the sellability scale to help get your house ready to go on market, to kind of give your house a grade. I believe we've talked about that before. This is even more important now, because with such a slim inventory and buyers now having more power, it turned into, okay, the sellers were once firmly in charge. Over the last 6 weeks, sellers aren't totally in charge anymore. Even though there's still a strong seller's market, buyers are now coming in smaller numbers. So yes, we still have low inventory, but buyers are actually having a smaller buyer inventory now. So that pool of people that are willing to give you money for your house has shrunk dramatically. And you want to make sure that your house casts a really good first impression when they come in. And so if it's not clean, if you've not hired professional cleaners, you're making a huge mistake. Huge mistake. So make sure you get that house cleaned by professionals. We've actually got some great ones for you. If you need a number of somebody, give us a call, reach out to us. There's a whole host of things that you can do. We cover a lot of this in our future seller seminar that we do weekly. And so you can go to our Eventbrite page and take a look at that. We'll actually put the link along with the description of that in this podcast, so you can sign up for that. But there's a whole host of things you can do to make your house stand out outside of the competition, to truly help you stand apart and get top dollar. Even in this very weird market that we're in, you can still pull that off if you follow some really good common sense guidance that we'll give you.
Yeah, and if you still have questions about the market, your certain situation, don't have time to attend a seminar, feel free to reach out to us anytime, email, phone number. If you're a buyer and you're asking how this market affects you, give us a call. We can help.
Well, if you're a buyer, you just got more control in the market too. So I mean, that's really good news, because you have not had that for the last several years. And so you're coming into a little bit more of a position of being a bit more in control than you have been in recent history. So congratulations in advance.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Looking forward to the next podcast with all of you. Like always, if you have any questions, reach out. Thanks.
Have a great day.